What if the very element that threatened to consume a nation instead became its greatest strength? Discover how the Netherlands, a land perpetually battling the sea, didn't just survive, it engineered a republic more powerful and innovative than any before it. Prepare to see history redefined by the ingenuity of a people who turned water into an empire. The story of the Netherlands begins not with castles or kings, but with mud, rivers, and endless tides. This was a land carved by shifting waters, where survival itself meant fighting against the sea. Long before Amsterdam's canals or Rotterdam's harbors, the first settlers lived on small man-made mounds known as turpen. These were raised patches of earth just high enough to escape the floods. But the water always returned. Storm surges, overflowing rivers, and the relentless North Sea reminded the Dutch that they were not masters of their land, yet. And so, communities began building primitive dikes, earthen walls that kept the sea at bay. But no single farmer could protect himself alone. Flood prevention required cooperation. Villages, towns, and neighbors united against the common threat, water. This constant battle wasn't just survival, it was the birth of a national character, resilient, communal, and ingenious. If necessity is the mother of invention, then water was the Dutch engineer's greatest teacher. The Middle Ages brought a revolution, the windmill. Originally used for grinding grain, it soon became a weapon against the sea. Wind-powered pumps drained vast wetlands, creating new farmland called polders, where once only marsh and swamp existed, now stood fertile plains, the very foundation of the Dutch economy. But windmills were only part of the system. The Dutch built intricate networks of canals, sluices, and locks, controlling water levels with astonishing precision. Their land wasn't given by nature, it was engineered. And when enemies threatened, water became a shield as well. The Dutch water line, an ingenious defensive system, allowed entire stretches of land to be flooded at will. Invading armies found themselves trapped, their cannons useless, their horses drowning in the mire. Through mastery of water, the Dutch weren't merely surviving, they were building the foundations of a republic unlike any other. Mastering water at home gave the Dutch confidence to command it abroad. The 17th century marked the Dutch Golden Age. Canals threaded through every city, turning Amsterdam into the Venice of the North. These waterways weren't just picturesque, they were highways of commerce, linking markets across Europe. At sea, the Dutch merchant fleet became the largest in the world. Their crowning jewel was the Dutch East India Company, the world's first multinational corporation. With ships sailing from the lowlands to Asia, Africa, and the Americas, the Netherlands grew into a global economic powerhouse. But trade brought rivals, and so the Dutch built one of the most formidable navies in history. They fought the English, the Spanish, even the Portuguese, not only protecting their commerce, but shaping the balance of power across Europe. The same water that once threatened to drown their villages now carried Dutch wealth, influence, and ideas to the farthest corners of the globe. But the Republic was not just about ships and trade. Its very spirit was born in the struggle with water. During the 80 Years' War for independence from Spain, the Dutch used their mastery of dikes and floods to turn the tide, literally. By breaching dikes, they flooded entire regions, trapping Spanish armies and defending their hard-won freedom. Even their politics reflected their watery environment. Because managing dikes and canals required cooperation, governance in the lowlands evolved differently from monarchies elsewhere. Water boards, some of the earliest forms of democratic institutions, were established to manage resources collectively. This cooperative governance influenced the creation of the Dutch Republic itself, one of the first modern republics in Europe. A culture of resilience and adaptation was born. The Dutch learned not to fear challenges, but to innovate their way through them. In the lowlands, democracy and engineering flowed from the same source: survival. Today, the Netherlands still lives in constant dialogue with water, but the threats are no longer just storms and tides. Rising sea levels and climate change pose new challenges, demanding solutions every bit as bold as their ancestors once devised. The Dutch have responded with innovation: giant storm surge barriers, floating neighborhoods, and adaptive urban planning. Their expertise in water management has become one of their greatest exports, advising countries from Bangladesh to the United States on how to survive in a world of rising seas. But at the heart of it all remains the same lesson: water is not merely an enemy. In the Netherlands, it has always been a teacher, a resource, and a foundation for resilience. The Netherlands was forged not by kings or conquerors, but by ordinary people united against an extraordinary challenge. From muddy Turpin to global trade empires, from the 80 Years' War to climate leadership today, the Dutch story is proof that adversity can breed innovation and survival can give birth to greatness. So the next time you see a windmill, a canal, or a bustling Dutch port, remember, this is more than scenery. It is the legacy of a nation that turned water into its greatest strength, and in doing so, reshaped the course of history. The Dutch story isn't just history, it's a mirror for all of us today. Their struggle with water raises a deeper question: what challenges in our own world might seem like threats but could actually become our greatest strengths? Could rising seas, for example, force nations to cooperate the way the Dutch once did? Could climate change spark the same innovation and resilience that once built a republic from marshes? And here's something to think about. If your own home or city were threatened by water tomorrow, how would your community respond? Would it divide people or unite them the way it did in the lowlands? The Netherlands teaches us that survival isn't just about fighting nature, it's about learning from it. So I want to ask you, what lesson do you think the world should learn from the Dutch relationship with water? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And now, let's step away from history and simply admire the beauty of the Netherlands today, a nation where water, land, and people still live in harmony.